Live and streaming. Live and streaming. It's 4:59. I always start early because that's how it was in college under Bo Schembechler, boy. If the class or meeting started at 3, you better be in there at 10 to 3, 2:50. Because if you came in at 3, you were late. So, starting off, first live stream of Bunch Time. Bunch Time podcast with Jarrod Bunch. Isn't that something? Something. I'll give you a little bit of time. Come on in. Little podcast starting on June 13th, 2023. First broadcasting of Bunch Time on Millions. That's something. All right. I'm going to give you a little bit of time. People a little bit of time to come in if they're coming. If not, this will be taped. It will be taped. And while I'm going to give myself a little bit of time for people to settle in if they are showing up, just to do a little housekeeping, give you a little background of what's going on. So, to start off with, just to make sure that everyone is clear, my name is Jarrod Bunch. Jarrod. You probably heard Jarrod Bunch, but it is Jarrod Bunch. And this is Bunch Time. Now, Bunch Time was a name that came up, but when we first started thinking about this, and when I say we, I'm talking about my wife, Robin. We thought about calling it Beyond the Field with Bunch. Because for years, it's what I've always talked about. About the things that I did after football. So we're going to talk about the things I did after football, things I did during football, things that I'm looking forward to doing or putting myself in a position to try to do in the future. So Beyond the Field was not something that we stuck with. So Bunch Time is what the name that we came up with. I have Bunch Time Productions that's been going on for close to 20 years now. But Bunch Time. So Bunch Time is a podcast. This podcast is hosted by me, and it's going to revolve around former NFL players like myself. And what you do, or what you have been doing, or what you intend on doing, or what you aspire to do. Because when you play professional football, like I did, I was 27 years old when I retired. 27 years old. And I retired because of injury. So I wasn't prepared to be at the end of my career. I wasn't prepared for it. But at 27, and I had just turned 27 too. It was like, my birthday's in August. I retired I don't know. But I retired not too far after August because of my knee. But anyway, Bunch Time is about players and what they do after, right? So myself, I've been in a lot of different things. I've been multi-level marketing. I've been in trucking or sales. Oh boy, I did it all, and I was turned to acting, and I did that. I got involved in acting because I was here playing with the L.A. Raiders, or L.A. Raiders, when I had to retire, and being in L.A. gave me a lot of opportunities to meet people in the entertainment industry, and I decided to go to acting school. So I went to acting school and started getting a lot of attention when I was auditioning and started booking a lot of commercials. So since 1995, when I retired from football, I've been in acting ever since. Now, so Bunch Time, it's going to do a lot of talking about that and some of the other things, because as an actor, especially starting off early, you don't get a lot of work. So you have a lot of time to do a lot of different things. So I was, even though I have a degree from University of Michigan, plus went to graduate school at Michigan, but I didn't finish my graduate work. Started doing other things. And now I am the president of NFLPA, former players here in LA, Los Angeles chapter. And that is after I spent 3.5 years as the vice president of NFL alumni. Now, this podcast that I'm starting here, I want to engage some of the people that I spent a lot of time with throughout the years of being a vice president and president, and dealing with, when I say dealing, I mean having the opportunity to work with guys that have retired because they played 15 years, and guys that signed one contract, free agent, made a team, was on a team for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then spent the rest of the year trying to find another team. And that happens a lot. Those stories are, they are more abundant than any story that people can hear, think about, or talk about. So this podcast is going to be engaging and explores the multifaceted lives of professional athletes and delves into their journeys beyond the sports arena, because it is a journey, brother. So I'm hoping that this show can provide a platform for athletes to share their stories of growth, challenges, and triumphs, as they and as I have navigated my life after football. And it goes up and down a lot. I hope to give a lot of insightful conversations and valuable resources from this podcast. I hope that it helps not only current players, former players, or fans who wonder what happened to so-and-so, and give them a little understanding of what being a professional athlete is about. A lot of times we get one side of the story. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about is in this age of having so many podcasts, media outlets, social media, and having so many things that are written, talked about players, and those players and former players not having the opportunity to be a part of the story except for their name. What comes to my mind right away is a few years ago, I was looking online, and a video on YouTube came up that was about me. and it was said the strangest holdout in NFL history or something like that. And it went on and gave a story of some of the things were just completely false. They've never talked to me about it, but they had a whole story about how my last days for the New York Giants was and what happened with the contract that my last contract with the New York Giants. Not a single person talked to me about it. Now they asked me nothing, but a whole story. And that happens a lot. So now we're going to, at some point, I hope to have that person who did that video on this podcast. And he can come and we can talk, and I'll give him all the information that he thought he had. I don't know where he got it from, and we can talk about my last few months or weeks with the Giants and my career, what happened and how it went, direction that it went, coming out of the University of Michigan. So we'll talk about that. But the purposes of this podcast for me is healing too. I mean, I want to be beyond the field. A lot of people still. I've been out of the NFL as a player since last time I was on the field was 1994. So, and I still get guys, or still get fan mail, still have to sign cards, and so some of the stuff is good, but some of the stuff is not. So we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about the good stuff, the bad stuff. We're going to talk about the stuff that how it affects my daily life now, and how to make that change, that transition from being a player that you've done. In my case, I started playing football at 8, Little League, and every summer since I was 8, a certain part of the summer was always dedicated to straight football. Period. That's what you were doing. You were preparing for football practice, football conditioning, all of that. So we're going to get into that too. So I want this podcast to serve as twofold. Firstly, to educate, to empower, to support former NFL players as they transition into their new phases of their lives. And this could provide the practical insight, advice, and resources to help them navigate the career changes and personal development, all while maintaining a healthy relationship with the people around them. Because that was something that it changes. Once you retire or you're no longer playing, something changes. Something changes, man. And it's not easy to deal with. Depression. Oh, man. But anyway, that was the first part that I wanted to accomplish with this podcast. And secondly, the podcast is aimed to raise awareness about the wide range of benefits available to former NFL players. That is why I'm now the president of the NFLPA Former Players, the LA chapter, because of the benefits that they are available today that when I retired in 1995 were not available. Or they were like insurance companies. You have insurance, but they never would pay. Period. And that's where the benefits used to be. I mean, I could no longer play football because of injury. Yet when I applied for the benefit for the injury of my knee, I was turned down, not straight out turned down. There was a level of loss that I had to reach based on what a doctor said. And in this case, it was in 1997, 1998. He said that it was the limit that I had to reach was 70% loss. And at that time, I was marked down as 69% loss. So I didn't reach the 70, so I don't get that benefit. That was it. And that was how most 90% of the cases went back in the mid 90s, all the way really up into 2000s. So, but now it's different. I wasn't the only person that was like that was being turned down. It was 90% of guys being turned down. So it became something that guys just knew what was going to happen. So over the course of years and years and years and years, guys stopped even trying to apply for the benefit, even though they deserved it. They stopped because they knew they were going to be turned down. Enter the last 10 years, really the last 7, when the last CBA was signed. And so really it's like last 5 years. The last CBA was signed and things changed. When you now apply for your benefits, you have a real chance of getting it. But guys have been turned off so much from being turned down, that now even when you receive the information of, hey, you may be eligible for this benefit, come sign up or go to a doctor, or just do your due diligence for yourself and get the care that is earned, that you've earned. Guys aren't even trying to do it because it takes so much out of you when you know you deserve something. You know that you earned something. You know the benefit is for you, but you don't receive it. It takes something away. So guys weren't even trying to get the benefits anymore. Now it's changed. And now that I know that it's changed, that is why I became vice president of the Alumni Association here. And then when the president's position in the PA came available, I ran for that too. And now I'm the president of the NFLPA former players here in LA. Strictly to help guys understand the new process and the new benefits that are available and really are working. It is a new day. I talk about my life after football, and one of the things that I did just not too long ago, in the last 4 or 5 years, is I became the head coach at Beverly Hills High School, and that's one of the reasons why I got back into being in a position to help in the NFL and alumni. It's because the youth in sports now, today, they are what will be the future players. We all know that. But if they're not taught and they're not given direction and put in positions to learn real quality football, and not just about winning, it's about learning and getting an education of deferred gratification, an education of being able to get yourself together. It's not always just about you. It's about deferred gratification. Life is about deferred gratification many times. And if you don't learn it at that young age, boy, it could be rough. So I started coaching. I took the head coaching job at Beverly Hills High School. Took that head coaching job, and it was one of the highlights of me in football is seeing young men growing up, changing, learning something, and me having something to do with what's going on. Now, being the head coach at Beverly Hills High School, I'm going to tell you, the first day that I went there, I found out that the team was graduating about 70% of the team. My first practice was really a conditioning in the summer. I had 9 kids. The entire summer, we had 15. So I didn't even know if we were going to be able to play a whole, or I didn't even know if we were going to be able to fill the team. We ended up the first week before we played the game, we had 22 kids. 22 kids. And that's including freshmen. And when I say we have 22 kids, I mean that's 22 people 22 bodies. 22 bodies. Not all of them had played football before. So, I mean, in Beverly Hills, I live here in Beverly Hills too, and there are no Little League teams. So, freshmen were playing football for the first time in pads ever. So they had to learn everything: how to tackle, how to protect themselves, how to block, how to cover the ball, how to catch the ball, how to get away from people, how to do it all. So we went into the first season with 22 kids. And when I say we, it was myself and another former teammate of mine for the Giants, Mike Sherrard. He was my offense coordinator. And we had, I put in a request in the paper and asking for anyone who had a football background if they were looking to coach high school football. Got a couple of people came out. So we had myself, Mike Sherrard, a 20-year-old young man who was in college, never played football, but he wanted to just help and do whatever he could. And then I got another guy who played semi-pro football who had just moved into town. So we had 4 coaches. That was it. 4 coaches, 22 kids. And coming off of a team that had not won a game in 2 years. And 8 years prior to those 2 years, they had won 1 game a year. So, now let me say this too. They had scored 1 touchdown the year prior, 2 touchdowns the year prior to that. So, this is what I was dealing with. Anyway, that first year with 22 kids, we won 2 games. 2 games. And scored more points than, obviously, the previous few teams with only 22 kids. Second year, we had 24 kids. And that year we won 3 games. And we beat a team that was pretty good, a legitimate team. We had 20, like I said, 24 kids. They had 49, 50 kids, and they had players. But we schemed, ran plays. I put in plays that, look, every time they did this, I want you to run this play, period. That's where we ran the whole game. Ended up winning that game. The following year was COVID, and I had to let it go. So I stopped coaching it during the COVID years. But that time there, the time I spent with Beverly Hills High School, is very beneficial for me. And I hope that is beneficial for those kids too. I think we learned, I'm hoping that they learned a lot, because I still remember my coach in Little League, and he had the most effect on my football career. Earl Johnson, my first coach. At that time, they called it midget football. And first time I had ever put on pads, I was 8 years old. Playing on the same team as my brother. Ashtabula Midget League football. To this day, the way Coach Johnson had us running and working out and putting our mindset into what we had to get done, I still use that with those young men that I coached at Beverly Hills High School. Now, after that, I did go on and do a coaching fellowship, what they call a coaching fellowship, with the LA Rams, which was really good for me. But it was during the COVID pandemic, so most of the things that we did was all online. We didn't do anything in person. So that was that. But I still I enjoyed the fact that I learned a lot from the pros, the coaching staffs, and just coaching, period. And I see how important it is that from the young age, the kids, the young adults get a education on how to train. Because what I'm seeing in high school football is it's either you are rich with talent or very poor with talent. And they are just becoming like colleges of recruiting and getting kids to come to your school just because, just because they'll come. And I'm concerned about that because kids are just coming to play with winners, period. They just want to win. They don't care about anything else. All they want to do is be with the team. They don't want to work hard. They want to be with the other winners. It's almost the same thing that you see in pro sports, but more so in basketball. You see all of the superstars want to play with each other. They want to play on the same team, which they're right. They can do that. But I think our youth are getting the wrong idea. They don't look at it as anywhere as they just want to play on a team that wins. They don't want to play hard. They just want to play on a team that wins. That's all they. So that's what my concern is. But talking about this is, that's the past. It was my past. are what I've been doing since leaving football. And of course, I mean, I can't leave out the acting, man. I mean, you know, I went to coaching because I got tired of doing some things I was doing as an actor. That, and truth is, these concussions are real, and my memory is not what it used to be. And the problem was I couldn't remember my lines as much as I used to. So that was one of the reasons why I started going into coaching too. It's very difficult to remember my lines sometimes. So that's true. That's the truth. But as you can see, I still am acting in commercials. Well, I try to anyway. I have a production company that we try to do. I try to get my company to get things done, as especially in the sports field. So that's the way that is. Anyway, I want to make sure that I can get as much information about what I want to accomplish with this podcast. And the first one, and the first airing right now. Okay, so as I said, the Bunch Time podcast is to help. And when I say help, I mean by just telling my story. And when I say my story, I mean what things that I've experienced. And I'll have some guests come on, and I want to have some insightful conversations and valuable resources to share, because this podcast is going to center and caters to former NFL players, okay, and individuals on similar paths, offering a guidance and offering some inspiration. How about that? I get inspired by a lot of guys, and one thing that I did notice is that when you're playing, you're always competing. You are always competing, and that's one of the things I talked about to my high school players. You got to compete. When you compete, it's good, it's healthy, because you're trying to get better. If you see someone doing a certain level, you want to either better that or at least match it. When you're doing it by yourself, you don't know, are you going hard enough? Or are you going too soft? You don't know. You don't know. So that's why when you have the other people there and you're competing, it's helpful. And so compete. Right? So we are definitely going to take this podcast to make sure we go beyond the field and beyond the things that happen on the field. And I say, I have a football camp for youth. It actually is coming up next week in Ohio. And it is clearly just one thing that I love doing, because when I was young, when I started at 8 years old, I had Lyle Alzado, who was, at that time, he was a Cleveland Brown. He came and spoke at our Little League banquet. And he was the first professional athlete that I saw speak in person, and it seemed like he talked directly to me, because people could ask questions to him, and I asked a question. And what he said and how he said it, it was clear to me. So I was like, I can understand it. I could see it. And I could put it to use. And it has been something that has really been a big part of me. Started off right there when I was 8 years old. I was the youngest. I have an older brother. And on my street, we lived on a dead end street, and we had a group of boys there, all different ages, but I was the youngest boy on that street. And I always tried to hang out with older guys. I always tried to play sports with the older guys. I always did everything to hang out with my brother, older brother. And that made me tough, because if I wanted to hang out with him, I had to keep up. So I was always with the older crowd. When it came time for me to be around my age, I was already taller than the other ones. I wasn't the tallest in my class, but I was always tall. When I got into athletics against kids my age, it was good for me, not so good for them. Not so good for them. But that was one of the reasons why, because I hung out with my brother and the older guys most of the time. So that's a part of my life, and part of my story. And I want to be able to bring those type of stories from other guys onto the podcast, because we aim to illuminate the diverse experiences of professional athletes. We want to foster a deeper understanding of their lives beyond their sports careers. So this podcast is going to serve twofold purposes. Firstly, to educate, empower, and support former NFL players as they transition into the new phases of their lives. And it's going to provide a practical insight, advice, resources to help them navigate their career changes, navigate their personal development, and maintain healthy relationships, which is so important, man. It's so important, the relationships that you have. And secondly, the podcast aims to raise awareness about the wide range of benefits available to former NFL players, ensuring that they have an access to resources that can enhance their post-football lives by sharing lesser known benefits and opportunities. And then this show aims to empower athletes with valuable knowledge and encourage them to make the most out of their post-sports journey. That's a lot. That's a lot. But it isn't. It's not a lot. It's life. We retire from football at an early age. You still might have 2/3 of your life or more left after you stop playing football. I had to learn some difficult lessons. Very difficult. But I did get through it. And I can help in sharing with guys alike of what I did to get through it, and what I did that were not the right moves, and what I did that were the right moves. Man, the podcast is something else, man. This being able to do this, yeah, it's good. It can be good anyway, right? So even though this one's our first one, and hopefully, look, this podcast, and all of them will be up somewhere, and you will be able to see them afterwards. But these are the live streams, and so in the future, I'm assuming, and as more work that I do to get this known and how to come on here, we'll have a lot of people on the live stream. But right now, you're going to see in the future of this stream. But it's the first one. And we'll get better. Okay? All right? So I hope you understand, got an understanding of what and why and where. I told you a little bit about me, but I'm going to tell you right now that on the next episode, I'm going to give you the scoop on how I got into acting. How did I go from football to acting? What was that process? You want to find out? You have to do your homework and find out how to see Bunch Time, episode 2. All right? All right. That's it for today, brothers and sisters. I'll see you next time on Bunch Time.